Good afternoon. We are live on the Casually Baked YouTube channel with Denny Chipollini. Denny, thank you so much for joining us on an episode of the podcast.
Joe, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be doing this with you.
Yes,
Thank you.
and you discovered me right after I had done a rant on chronic pain. And when I heard your story, I just thought, thank you, universe, for dropping this beautiful story in my lap. So, Denny, let's kick off the podcast by you telling your story. What happened back in 1989 that changed your life?
Yeah, that's where it all started. I guess you could say that's where my life turned around. I was 36 years old, baby on the way. My wife was 7.5 months pregnant. It was a Saturday morning. I got in the car, and I'm a hairdresser. I was a hairdresser, and then I went part-time. So I do hair on the side, or did hair on the side. So I headed down to work, and I was on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. It was raining that day, so I lost control of the car. All of a sudden, it started to hydroplane. I hydroplaned right into a guardrail. It shook me up at first. There was complete silence when I hit this guardrail. And I realized I was alive, and that was a good thing. But what I saw in front of me caused a sudden rush of pain that covered my body. My left leg was on the dashboard of the car. My right leg or foot was underneath the guardrail that came through the car that severed both my legs. Thank goodness I had a seatbelt on, or I'd have been cut in half because I would have slid forward. When I saw that, like I said, the pain all of a sudden, wow. And the blood started to flow. And it was coming out like a garden hose. And I knew right away that I was going to die if I couldn't solve the problem of lowering this blood volume. That was one of the most incredible lessons I learned. Right at that moment, I had to do something. I couldn't move because I was pinned. Obviously, my legs weren't even attached at that point. But I still had my mind. And what I did is I visualized myself in a safe spot, somewhere where everything was going to be okay. So I visualized the hospital. 2 doctors working on both legs, like it was real, like I was going through it. And they were fixing me up. And it was amazing. At that point, my heart started to come down and the blood flow slowed up. Visualization now I use all the time. It's just amazing. You see where you want to go and you go and get it. That's
Absolutely.
simple.
Absolutely, Denny. And, that was one of the things that I found most inspiring about your story. I tell people all the time, I am a powerful creator. You are a powerful creator. And it is in those moments where you do connect with your higher self and you're like, okay, we got to do something about this. It is me. I am creating my reality right now. What do I do?
Exactly. And it was, I believe we all have this, every one of us. It's a survival mode. And that's what it was. I quickly realized that I needed to get a tourniquet on the one leg at least. People started to come, and I said to the one guy, I said, "Can I have your T-shirt? I got to make a tourniquet." Because I was wide awake through this whole thing. I took the turn signal off, this turn signal lever, and we made a tourniquet on the one leg. And the other one, I just held with my hands until the emergency workers came. And they peeled back the roof, put me in a helicopter, and took me to the hospital, where I spent 3.5 months.
And so during this 3.5 months,
Excuse me.
during this 3.5 months, is there a chance that you're going to be able to save both of these legs, or do you know what your fate is, or is it a day by day thing that you're going through at that point?
Well, they put external fixators on both legs, two long screws on the bottom of my close to my ankles, and two above where it's severed, and then they attach it with a piece of steel. I look like an erector set, but it held the legs in, and the point of that is to heal. The problem is down there, your shin area, there's not enough mass, soft tissue, blood. So that's where the problem lied. I ended up with osteomyelitis in my left leg, and that went on for months. I even had an operation where they took a muscle from my abdomen.
Okay.
Yeah, from my abdomen, and put it down there on the left leg to bring blood supply. And during that, prep of that operation, in comes my wife at 6 o'clock in the morning in a wheelchair in my hospital room. She was giving birth to our firstborn son.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I wasn't able to be there for her delivery, but they brought him to me when I was in recovery, which was kind of cool.
Wow.
Cool.
That's insane. I mean, that is a lot of things happening to one family. So you finally made a decision in April 1990 that you were like, just take the leg. Like, I need my life back. I'm tired of being in this hospital. So talk us through a little bit about that decision and where you were mentally moving forward.
Yeah. It was debriding, trying to get rid of this infection. So I had 15 operations. And then I'm watching TV, and back then 3M was running a commercial. And it was this guy, he goes to the basketball court in his neighborhood, and he takes off his sweatpants, and he's got two prosthetic legs, or one prosthetic legs, I forget. But back in 89, or that would have been 90 then when I saw that, it was the old fashioned kind, but still it was very impressive commercial because he's playing basketball. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, that's what I want. That's what I want to do. I want to get moving again, because this is doing me no good. It's going to ooze for the rest of my life. And a lot of the doctors, when I said, take it, they're like, but you're going to lose your leg. So what? It's not doing me any good. I've done more now with one leg than I ever thought of doing with two. I've done marathons, triathlons, jumped out of an airplane, and I was scared of heights.
Yeah. So what kind of a personality did you have prior to this? Were you an active, like, go get them, doer type A personality?
Well, I think I always was, but just to give you an idea, in high school, you know how they vote for, when you're seniors, they vote for the most likely to succeed or the nicest hair. I got
that
lazy.
Was me. I was most likely
the nicest
to succeed.
Hair?
No.
Oh, most likely to succeed. Well, that's true. And you have the nicest hair too, I bet.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. But yeah, so I get voted for the laziest kid, not in the class, but in the school. I went to school and there was 2,000 kids in that school. Laziest kid. And when it was my turn to go up there, I sent somebody else because I'm the laziest kid.
Well, yeah, I guess that's what you do if you want to own your title.
But I was so proud of this. Years later, I graduated in 71, but in 2004, I received distinguished graduate. I turned my life around. I was a wild child. I was born, in the Woodstock generation, so yeah.
People do change. I get in arguments about that all the time. where I believe that when we make a decision to be different, to be better, to excel in some form or fashion, that's it. The decision's made, it's happening. And
Right.
so many people that are still a little bit lazy would like to argue that people don't change. You can't ask an old dog to learn new tricks, Joe, and it's just not true.
Absolutely right. But unfortunately, and I'm not everybody needs a tragedy like I had to change them, but it does work.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
in my
thank goodness.
case, it was a turning point, and it's made my life. Of course, I had my ups and downs, but it's made my life amazing. Right now, I can honestly say, I'll be 68 shortly. I can say I am so content where I am. I've never felt this way before, and I'm very content. It took 68 years to get here, but hey, we use what happens to us to move us along. We can't sit there and cry about it. We have our moments, and it's fine, but you
Yeah.
got to move on and learn from it. That's what I've
Mhm.
found.
Amen. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit, the post surgery pain management piece. That was how your initial conversation kind of started with, chronic pain like that and acute pain that you are experiencing post surgery. You developed a relationship, whether you like to or not, with opioids. Tell me about that a little bit.
Oh yeah, we became good buddies. Well, back the accident in 89, 90, I mean, they would hook you up to something they called the pump. I don't know if they use it anymore, but literally it's morphine, and I push a button and it gives me my dose of morphine. Um, so obviously I started with that. With all this debriding they were doing, it was really disturbing the nerves in the leg. When they finally took it, what happens is the brain remembers the last message was sent. There was a lot of pain I was getting. So I was experiencing that pain, and then something wonderful like what I call phantom pains.
Yeah.
One of the worst pains I've ever, and I've felt them all. I've felt them all. Phantom pain is like being electrocuted every 5 to 8 seconds. And the worst part of it, it's coming. So the anticipation, literally, it jolts you. You just,
Ah.
it's so hard to explain. Anybody who's had nerve pain knows what I'm talking about. And that's when my journey with opioids started. I went from the pump to the pills, and I literally went to the doc, and whatever I wanted or whatever I asked for, if I needed more, and obviously I needed more just about, through this whole thing. I was
So
up to
as time would progress, you would just need more because your body would also just kind of become immune to that dosage, and so you kept having to titrate up to get the relief. Is that what I heard?
Here's what's interesting. This is was scary. I can look back now and I realize it. Those opioids controlled me. They started to cause my pain. Every 3 hours, I needed to take it, and it reminded me, and it caused pain just to feed me. It messed my gut up. It messed my brain up. It took over my personality. I couldn't leave the house unless I had my little satchel of pills, because I would panic as soon as that started talking, saying, "You feed us, feed us." It's so scary. I mean, I might have died a few times. I've passed out to the point where, I had to wake up and I'm struggling to breathe. I woke up in the middle of an intersection quite a few times where I've literally passed out waiting for a light. That was scary. But the sensation to feed this hunger, I call it Satan because it was. It did, I overlooked all that.
So
Uh,
as you're having that that craving for the opioids, what was that doing to your relationships? I know it's wrecking your body. What was it doing to the relationships in your life?
Well, I was able to, do the marathons, things like that, because I would take the pills. What it did to my marriage, I mean, I ended up in a divorce. I could have been a better father to my kids. I feel now I'm where I should be. But yeah, it took my personality away. It made me non-compliable. It was about that. I had access to them, whatever I wanted. I tried them all. I'm like, Doc, can we try this? Can we try that? Because it wasn't working. I still had the phantom pains, and I would just eat more and more and more. And I could have killed myself.
Absolutely. So what was happening with your running, your competing? Was your diet aligned? Was everything else in your life? You seem like somebody who, really cares about taking care of yourself and your body. How long were you living like that? And was the rest of your life seemingly healthy?
Oh, I took nutrients, vitamins all along. But this was the other side of me. This was the dark side. I mean, at the time, I'm not thinking it's doctor prescription, prescribed, and it's killing pain. It's helping me live my life. Mm-hmm. I kept saying that because I even sat with my wife and I said, I'm going to quit these. And this was before I finally quit them. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to function. I did quit for a little while. It was hard, but I went right back to them.
Yeah. So how long was this relationship with opioids before you discovered cannabis?
Well, I discovered cannabis back in the Woodstock era.
Well, I've been as a tool for you now.
Right. And like I say, I tell people, because that's one of the things when I'm talking about it with people, I say to them, it's not your crazy uncle's marijuana anymore. It's not that. I was back, I experimented with, Acapulco Gold. We had Panama Red, Moroccan hash, but amazing. And I thought that stuff was strong. The stuff we have now is amazing. It's amazing. But I went 28 years on opioids. It's cost me all my teeth. These are new. These are all new. I had to have them all implanted. It rotted. When the doctor opened up, when he saw my mouth, I said to him, I was on opioids for 28 years. He goes, yeah, we've seen this. I mean, literally, I had four or five teeth left.
Yeah, I don't ever see that on those opioid commercials that Big Pharma puts out. They never talk about that.
No, they don't, do they?
What else do they not tell us, Denny?
Oh, well, they here's what's amazing. These things can constipate you pretty bad. But then they came out with a drug that you can take to help with opioid constipation. Is that amazing? And here's the other thing, because when I quit these things, I looked at going to a detox. And I'm like, okay, I went in and I said to them, I want a detox. He goes, okay. And I said, how long does it take? He goes, usually about 7 days. We're going to put you on other drugs. And I'm like, what? No, I don't want that. They're opioids, but you don't get the sensation. No. And that's when I decided I'm going cold turkey. And that's what I did. Wow. I locked myself in my room because I did this before and I knew it was coming. I loaded up with herbs, ashwagandha. I always say it wrong. That stuff's amazing. Yeah. I used that. I didn't have access to cannabis. Because I did sign up for the card, but it didn't come in yet. And I wanted to quit. But I did use CBD. That, oh my gosh, that helped with the anxiety.
Oh, I bet.
Because there were times where it felt like things were crawling on me. The sweats, you name it. And it goes on and on. It took me a year to get my gut back.
I believe that. I believe that when I mean, and this is not even a comparison, but I had gone and lived in Bologna, Italy for a year and a half. And just introducing my gut back to food in the United States, it took me, it felt like a year to get my gut back.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
the food situation is just different. What we are allowed to stock on grocery store shelves here in the States versus
it's the
other
shit
countries.
here. We
Yeah.
get the shit. I mean, I went to Italy too. My son and I went. We went to the. Oh my God! As soon as the first pizza, I said I got to have a pizza. We're in Naples. That's where it started.
Yeah.
Oh my God! 3 ingredients. What they can do with it? Because their wheat's better. Everything is. That could be a whole nother
Mamma
show.
mia!
Yeah.
I know.
But
All right. So you lock yourself in your room and go on the ride of a fucking lifetime. Wow. I can't believe you did that.
I know. Well, I did check with my doctor before. I told him what I was going to do. He says, I really recommend you going to a rehab. And I'm like, no, I want to do this myself. I had the, blood pressure. He did give me some sedatives in case I needed it, but I didn't take them.
And so your goal for doing this, for you wanting to go completely cold turkey and be fully using whole plant options, what was your reasoning for making that decision?
Well, my father passed away right before I quit these things, and he had dementia, Alzheimer's, and I'm thinking, I started to feel like I was getting it, but it really was the opioids. Yeah. Because the past 3 years have been amazing how my mind has healed with the use of cannabis. Oh my gosh. I'm getting chills right now when I tell you that. I had phantom pains all the time. With the opioids, they just numbed it a little bit, but it made me take more. When I quit and finally got through the detox, here's the thing about cannabis. You need to play around with it. You need to find what you need if you're taking it for pain or anxiety. What I say to people, you're your own pharmacist. You literally, and what I do is I get 3 different tinctures. I love tinctures for pain. That's what I do. I'll get up in the morning. I have my power coffee, with the coca powder and the MCT oil. And then I'll squirt a little bit of the tincture under my tongue. And I'll do that 4 times a day. When I tell you, Joe, no lie, in 2 years, now the first year was tough because I needed to regulate and find it. 2 years, I have not had phantom pains. I haven't had any pain. Any pain. The only pain I get is if I go too many miles, the soreness.
Yeah.
Now I did have phantom pain the other day, and this is what I learned from it. Very interesting. Like I said, I normally take, and this is the tincture I use. Let me see it. Wait a minute. There we go. Right here. And I mix it myself. So I use different strains.
So you DIY, you make your own tincture at home.
With, the ones that I get from the medical marijuana dispensary. So I'll do, 3 different types.
So you are mixing the different tinctures that you get.
Correct.
Okay, yes. Copy that.
Yeah. So what I found is what I have right now, it's a high THC tincture. But I don't like to get psychoactivity during the day too much. So the other day was interesting. Last month, storms coming. And that used to scare me because the barometric pressure changing, all of a sudden the phantom pains, here they come full force. And that would last for days. Storms coming, I didn't think of it. So I wake up in the morning, like about 2:00 in the morning. I normally get up at 3, but I have incredible phantom pain. And I'm like, where's this coming from? I haven't had these in a long time. I dealt with it. I took cannabis, I vaped, I did everything. It got me pretty stoned, but it didn't kill the pain. But I learned something. Here's why I got the phantom pain. The day before, I took my morning dose. Then usually after a workout or after a speed walk or a run or something, I'll take another one. I didn't take my 2 in the afternoon. I'll take one around 3 and one around what I call happy hour. We know
I call it my
is.
reefer recap.
There you go. And that's what it was. See, here's what I found out about cannabis, THC, I particularly. The phantom pains can be held at bay as long as I'm taking those 4 doses. What happened was I allowed those phantom pains to escape. And once they escape, it's hard to control them because they're shooting up that nerve highway.
Mm-hmm.
That may not sound very,
No, if
medical.
you've got chronic pain, well, no, that is
but I experienced it.
Yes, and that's exactly what you have to do. You have to be willing to experiment and be super mindful and notice those things. That way you can be your biggest advocate, find your sweet spot, and now you can't miss one of your micro doses every day.
Exactly. And then and it really, and I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so content, because I don't feel like I'm owned by something. Cannabis, opioids own me. They owned me. Whatever they wanted me to do, I did. And I could see where, you see people kill for it, and I get it because that's the place they're in. It takes your mind away. Cannabis healed all that for me. Oh my gosh, my memory. I'm working on a book right now to tell my story, all this. And the memory that is coming back that was gone when I was taking opioids. Not only that, it's the thought process. You know what I'm saying? It just, it allows you, I'm not saying it's a Peter Max thing. It's, if it can be, if you want it to be, but it just makes you think logically. It makes you think deeper and it opens the mind.
Absolutely.
I think some of these guys in Washington should really sit down and smoke some of this and understand what's going on.
Certainly. And, when you say that, not only is it opening your mind, but there are dots being connected that you don't see in just your 3D world. It's like inviting your higher self to join the party and to help you make better decisions and to just flow through your day and through the space. And I love that you were able to find that sweet spot with THC, because for pain, if you take too much, it can amplify that pain, and then not enough, and then it's just not cutting the mustard. So, you found that with THC. How do you incorporate CBD every day with that?
Well, that's why I mix the tinctures.
Okay, so okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'll get a high tincture and put that in. And then when I, at happy hour, I vape with, I like a more balanced blend or strain. I don't like it too psychoactive, but that has a higher CBD in it. It works. I mean, again, isn't life about finding contentment in that place? I found it. I'm in there. I'm right here now, and I want to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other fun thing about it too is, like you talked about, in that moment when the accident happened, you immediately going into a state of visualization. And, I do believe that, our thoughts become things, and visualizing the outcome we want is so important. And it's so much easier to get to that point when you have microdosed cannabis or you have some in your system. I mean, I use it every morning before my meditation, because it helps me get to that place a little bit faster and allows me to connect more dots than I would have, otherwise. So talk to me about, this going from a place of, okay, I am going to become an amputee. I am going to inspire people with my work. Like, that doesn't just happen overnight. This was a super long process for you. How did visualization help you get to where you are now?
When I was in the hospital, going after one operation after another, I'll never forget this. The doctors came in, circled the bed, and they said to me, Denny, we don't believe you're going to ever walk again without the use of some kind of apparatus, crutches or wheelchair or walker or whatever. And when they said that to me, something went off. And I looked at my father because he was in there. And I said, Dad, I want you to bring my weights in tomorrow. We start rehabbing tomorrow. And I said to them, you want to bet? And for a while, when I started running, I would send articles to the doctor that took my leg. Not in a bad way. I wanted to show him where I was at. And it was funny because I was his first amputation. I didn't know that until later.
I almost just spit my tea out.
I know.
What?
They called him Doogie Howser. Remember that show? The Real Young Doctor? Yeah. This guy was like brand new, fresh. But I got to say, he did a good job. It took a while. It wasn't coming out of that. I was worried. The biggest thing I was worried about is when I went into, to get it amputated and then waking up from the operation, throwing back the sheets and not seeing a leg there. Almost like a horror movie, like, but it didn't work that way. That was all in my head. I created that. And that was a negative visualization. But the good part is it didn't happen. When I saw it, it was okay. I wanted that. I had people call me the night before the amputation. A guy that kept his leg, same kind of accident, had osteomyelitis, and still does. But he said, Denny, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm getting my leg amputated tomorrow. He goes, don't. I kept mine. And I said, all right, let me ask you something. What do you do all day? He goes, I sit and watch kids in the park, playing and watch the birds. And on a good day, he says, I'll use my walker and I'll go over to the park bench. I said, okay. And how much weight have you gained? 70 pounds. And I'm like, that's not what I want. I said, if anything, you convince me even more that I want to move on. So I did. And like I said, it wasn't as easy as I thought, it would be. And I didn't think it would be. I'll never forget once I got out of the hospital and I was at a Home Depot. I have my new prosthetic and which didn't fit well. It took 5 years to get the right fit, to find the right prosthetist, and the atrophying has to go down. But I was out there and I'm looking around. I think I had to buy something, whatever it was. And I'll never forget this. There was a young kid, saw me because I had shorts on. It was in the summer. And he walked up behind me and he pointed his finger. Did you ever see the movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
No.
Okay. Well, that's when these aliens come to Earth. And people spot human beings, and you're supposed to, because you turn into an alien or whatever. But anyway, he's behind me going, look. And I'm like, holy mackerel, he's pointing at me. And I get, whoa. So I run to the next aisle, or not run, but I kind of get around to the next aisle, and he follows me and he continues to do it. He did it maybe 2 more times. And I'm like, that's it. I ran out to the car and I sat in the car, and Joe, I cried for 20 minutes. I'm like, this is going to be what it's about. And then I went inside myself and I went, no, it isn't. If I act like I'm disabled, then I am. I've got to present myself beyond a whole person. And that's okay, because that sets a goal for me. And I visualized that. And I started to visualize what I was going to do. And I just put it in motion. Because once you visualize it, all you have to do is go do it. I did that with my marathons. I did that going back to work. In the hospital, I would visualize. I worked for a package delivery company, and I would visualize me walking in front of the package cars 30, 40 times a day until eventually I got there again. I didn't deliver packages, but I worked inside.
Yeah.
So,
and I love how in every moment you've just taken control. And, you know, I'm really surprised that the man who had said, don't do the surgery, after seeing you, I can't believe that he wasn't inspired to have it done himself. I mean, you are living parallel lives, and it's just like the trajectory of your choice versus his is just stark.
Yeah. Well, I didn't come right out, preaching,
Certainly.
but I did run a 5K in my hometown in less than 2.5 years from the point where they told me I wouldn't walk again. Wow. And yeah, that was one of the coolest things, because it was my hometown. And when I finished dead last, but that's okay. And that's what I tell people. It's not about where you finish. It's about getting in the race, participating in life, whatever. Don't quit on it. Get out there. And I also say this, and this is one of my quotes that I love. The finish line is just the start of another race. And what I mean by that, not just in sport, but I mean in life. You accomplish a goal, you don't quit there. A lot of people say, oh, I accomplished this goal. That's why people, they'll lose weight, but they gain it back, because I lost my 10 pounds or 20 pounds and they go back to the same habits. No, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You've got these highly inspired lifestyle tools, and cannabis is one of them, and, meditation and visualization and moving your body and, straining your brain, all of those things we should be doing them every single day.
Yeah. That's what makes us grow. And enjoy life. Cannabis helps you educate yourself, but it also helps you enjoy yourself. Oh my God. What I call, with the good weather, we sit on the porch, my wife and I. She doesn't really smoke, but we'll play, music, and I get a little vaped up, and, it's happy hour. And the kids, when I say kid, the families that walk by with the dog and the little babies, and they'll go by and they'll see us out there and they're like, wow, you play the best music. And it's like, the thing about cannabis too, it's like when you're listening to music and you got a good strain that really brings out the guitars, and what I like, I say it's like hearing your favorite song for the first time. It's just, wow.
Yeah. Cannabis, it does enhance all of those everyday experiences. And I love that you are recognizing that it isn't just a medical tool, that it can also just improve your quality of life and your relationships, and make you a better communicator, and just being willing to, be loose and have fun. Like, that kind of stuff is just as important in the game of life as
Absolutely.
having good diet and exercise.
Absolutely. That's how you heal. They said laughter's the best medicine. Absolutely. I got to tell you this story. This is where it gets dangerous. This is where cannabis almost cost me my second marriage. Where do you hear that? It's funny. One of my dirty little secrets is I like General Hospital.
You and my sister Melody.
But my wife, she loves it too. So our happy hour sometimes is around General Hospital. We'll record it, and then so I'll have I like my double IPA and a couple hits of the vape, and I get silly. I start telling stories. I can't stop talking. So she puts on General Hospital, and there I go. I mean, literally, she gets mad. She's walked out of the room, shut the TV off, all upset. I'll even turn General Hospital into a porn movie sometimes. I'll make those comments, and I'm laughing my head off. She doesn't see that funny, but anyway, that's the dangers of it. But yeah,
yeah, I love
laughter.
that. That's the most dangerous thing that you deal with cannabis, and opioids made all your teeth out of your head fall out.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm hoping, I really believe that cannabis, I know people might be saying, oh yeah, no, I really feel that it's healing the damage in my brain that the opioids did. My memory's better. Everything is better. Like we talked about, just an amazing plant. It's been around so long.
Now so tell me, do you use a topical on your skin before you put on your prosthetic?
Right there. Yes. THC cream. I take it out when I do my miles. I'll rub that on, and it's just amazing. Amazing. It's stopped many of the breakdowns sometimes you get on skin, because you got that plastic rubbing there. And but yeah, I've used it. My mother's 95. She does a tincture. Oh my God. Today she goes, hey, I need some juice. And she's like, you think it should be a little stronger? She's funny. I mean, yeah, she enjoys it.
Absolutely. Well, and as we age, our bodies stop creating as many of our, endogenous cannabinoids. And being an older person, like taking a little bit of CBD and a little bit of THC every day can completely change your experience. Like, why wouldn't you want the elderly people in your life to have access to this plant medicine? It just doesn't make sense not to.
And that's one of the things I'm trying to do. Change that, your crazy uncle's marijuana. It's not that. And it can be, but it's so much more. And now with, hopefully the legalization coming through, there'll be more studies done. I just think, wow, there's no ending here. What this thing, what it can do, and not just the the CBD and the THC, but what is there, 100 different cannabinoids?
Yeah, there's over 100 different ones, and they're just scratching the surface of what each of them does. And so, yeah, there's going to be a lot of fun things that we learn about all these minor cannabinoids. But in the meantime, we've got a good solid workhorse with THC and CBD, and CBN is excellent for sleep. And, cannabigerol, CBG, the parent cannabinoid, can do all of these same things as well, minus the psychoactivity. So, we're batting 1,000 as far as I'm concerned. So it's only going to get better from here. And, when we have people in our government and in these top institutions that are, being paid off by special interest groups to say that cannabis is not helpful, we can't say that cannabis is helpful for chronic pain because we need better studies. That's why I need to hear from people like you that can say, excuse me, I have one leg and cannabis has changed my life, and it saved it, for that matter.
Exactly. I mean, I went the medical route, and it did nothing but give me bad side effects, almost kill me a few times. And I went this route. And this one I'm staying on. I train people. I'm a personal trainer, and I have a 85-year-old. We've become friends, but he's old school. And I'm like, try some cannabis. Go to your doctor. He'll give it to you. He has arthritis. His hands are all swollen. No, nope. If and he takes these pills, he ends up with his blood vessels in his eyes always bursting. He feels that he takes so many pills and it's not helping. But
Well, next time you see him, have your topical with him or with you, and just put some of your topical on his hands, because that is that lowest point of entry.
Yes.
And if you can show him within one session of y'all being around each other, because he'll feel within 15 minutes that his hands aren't hurting anymore.
Oh, I know.
And so just, and that's a lot of what I do, being an evangelist for the lifestyle, is, what's that most simple onboarding piece? It's like, let me help you with that localized pain relief. And
Right.
then that will pique your interest as to what else can cannabis do for me.
Right. And Joe, this is an important thing too, that the listeners should hear. It's where you get it to. You want to get a good quality CBD or THC. I mean, if you get a medical or that's what I like about the medical, at least in Pennsylvania. It's clean and you know what you're getting. But if you're going to try CBD, don't go to the gas station. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because some of the CBD's coming from China, and they use it to purify their air. Then they chop it up, send it here, and they're all of a sudden, Americans are putting it in their body, and you don't know the dosage. Go with a good, I believe, a company that that lives in your state, that's in your state growing.
Well, and I advise people all the time, just make sure that you're clicking that QR code, looking at that certificate of analysis.
Exactly.
And if it doesn't have one, then it's not an option to purchase.
Exactly.
But on casuallybaked.com, I have a podcast affiliates link. And so there are brands that I feel confident with and use myself, that if people don't know or they don't want to do that homework, that's a little place to look and get a Casually Baked discount while you're there.
Right. Now, you know what's interesting? I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but my son, he cannot get any kind of sensation from cannabis. And I've given him quite a bit of it. I don't think if this is possible, have a cannabinoid system or the receptors.
Well, we all have all mammals have an endocannabinoid system. So he definitely has one, but all of our genetic makeup is different. And some people metabolize it really quickly. Some people don't. Some people have fewer CB1 or CB2 receptors. I have heard before people that they can get high consuming it by combusting it, but then they take an edible and they don't feel it. So there is a lot of interesting quirks about us as humans. And I recommend everyone, if they want to understand how to utilize cannabis specifically for themselves, having an epigenetic panel done. You can have your endocannabinoid system tested specifically for your genes. So just like we can find out the best food and sleep patterns and exercise routines, we can also find out the best way to utilize our relationship with cannabis.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I would be curious for him to do that, just so I can see what that allele is. So, there's certain genes that they look at, and then they specifically see what your allele is what it's called. So, there are some people that are more likely to get the, cannabis psychosis if they took a ton of it.
Right.
And there's some people that there's not a snowball's chance in hell that that's going to happen. So, peace of mind is critical when we are figuring out what sort of wellness path we want to be on. And so for me, if somebody can hand me a roadmap, why wouldn't I take it?
Right. Exactly. And again, it's I say to people that are start out slow and just, that's what I like about the tincture. I can, judge what I need. And that has been amazing for the pain. So that's something that stays.
I love it. So, Denny, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think is an important part of your story to share?
Well, especially right now with this pandemic, what I have learned from cannabis is that if anybody needs it now, we do. You know, it really can help with the anxiety, the stress. It can put a smile on our faces. We just, you just have to take it slow if you've never done it. And I think it's something to help us through this. I really do.
I agree. And I think that there are always alternatives to whatever's being presented to us. Be curious, ask questions. There are always alternatives. Everything doesn't have to be done exactly the way it was done before. You know, what's good for one person may not be the best for another person. And so just really being curious and open and just going with the flow and just, I remember getting on antidepressants in my early 20s. It wasn't like the very first time we got it right.
Right.
I went back and forth and had 3 or 4 doctor's appointments before they dialed something in that made me feel normal. So, if you are curious about getting off of opioids and exploring a whole plant option, cannabis instead, you're not going to get it right on the very first try. And I would really encourage you to check out Denny's story. I mean, my saying is do it or don't, but do. And I swear, Denny, if anybody embodies that, it is you.
Wow. Well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. So I appreciate you having me on here. Appreciate what you do.
Now tell us if people want to get in touch with you, ask you questions, learn a little bit more about what you're doing, where can we find you?
You can find me I have a website, DennyChipollini.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And you can get through, right through the website, my website. I'm trying to put up, some exercise videos people can do at home. I will soon put my elixirs, my different health drinks. Matter of fact, tomorrow I've got to make a new batch of ginger water. And my ginger water, I've been offered $25 for a ball jar. I won't give it up. It's gold. I love that. I take hours to make it, but it's amazing stuff.
Well, tell me what your ginger water does for you.
Purifies my blood. I really believe it protects me from viruses and the evils of the world. You just feel good. Nice. I didn't mention this. I'll mention it now, but because of my accident in '89, I needed a blood transfusion. They didn't check the blood in '89. They didn't check it until '93. I ended up with hepatitis C. In 2000, I went through interferon treatment. 2000, in the early 2000s. And that is self-injections of interferon and another drug called ribavirin. And you got to realize I was doing marathons. I started on this drug. I couldn't walk a flight of steps without being totally exhausted. This went on for a year. My kids thought I was going to die. That's how sick I got from it. It didn't work. But I can tell you during that time, I was most depressed that I've ever been. And I would say there was a 2-week period that if there was a burning baby in front of me, it wouldn't have mattered. Yeah, I wouldn't have fazed me. And I know that's hard to imagine. And when I think of it, to be that depressed and not moving at all mentally, excuse me. But I got through that. And, you
Now,
know,
did the medication cure you of it, or
no,
did
it did
you?
not work. No, it brought my white blood count down. It was horrible. It was a horrible treatment, and I don't know the damage that put on my body either. But years later, I guess maybe what 5 years ago, 4 years ago, it's a drug. They have them out now. It's a 8 to 12 day week program. You take one pill. I did that one, and I'm rid. It's gone. It's gone. Now, I
Outstanding.
don't know what the side effects of that is, but there is stuff in modern medicine that does work. But I have an immune system, and if you believe there is something bigger than us that created us, he gave us an immune system, or she gave us an immune system, and we are to feed that with the proper nutrients that the world has. And with that immune system, it's amazing. The pharmaceutical companies want to take that immune system away, and they want to give us theirs so they can control it. I don't want that to happen. I will, I'm not saying down the road I wouldn't get what I need to get. But right now I feel my immune system's on target. When I had these teeth done, the doctor went in and he had to cut because the opioids literally ate my jaw out. He said there was such an infection in there. He goes, I don't know how you could handle that. How did you tolerate that? He says, your immune system must be amazing. And I loved hearing that because I'm like, what I'm doing must be working. Because I share that with people. They think I'm crazy because I get up an hour earlier to mix these things. But all I'm doing is mixing the things that should be in our food that aren't.
Yeah.
And
you're taking your health and well-being in your own hands.
Yes. The day I die, I want to, yes, I would like to be out there doing my miles or whatever, I don't want to sit there and waste away. And that's what I tell people. Take responsible for your own self, your own body, because it's the only one we get. And,
Amen.
and that's where I am. I am so content and happy.
I love to hear that. And, it's adversity can bring us some of the biggest gifts in our life. And what do you think, what would you say is the biggest gift that you've gotten out of that accident and losing your leg?
Oh, I received many. I received the power of visualization. I received the ability to understand that anything I set out to do, I can do. If I want it, I can do it. Whether I have one leg or two legs, it doesn't matter. I like the fact that I only have one because I make people notice that. It's great.
You've come a long way from that day in Home Depot, Denny.
Oh, I sure did. I had a nonprofit for about 8 years, and I was going into schools speaking to kids. And what I was doing is I'd wear breakaway pants, like basketball pants. So I'd be up there, and they had no idea I had one leg. And I'd get jacked up, I'd pump up, and I'd look pretty good. And that's what I would sit there and I'd say to them, guys, one of the biggest disabilities in the world is perception. When you look at something and you figure it out before, you even know about it, like judging a book by its cover. And I'm like, look at me. People would say, I look pretty healthy, right? But I'm disabled according to the world. Nah, they'd be going, nah. I'm like, yeah, I'm considered disabled. And I'd rip these pants off. I've seen kids fall on the floor when they saw that. It was such a powerful tool. So, yeah, if it wasn't for this amputation, I would have not had those 8 years of experience with speaking to kids and because some of these kids I'd see years later and they'd remember what I said.
Yeah.
So that's what it felt good. I want to get out there again. I do want to get out there again.
Well, you're going to have a book tour to do.
All right.
When is your memoir going to be finished? What's your goal?
Well, here's what happened. We were trying to do too much with the book. There's a lot of stuff. So we revamped it. I have a ghostwriter doing it, and we revamped it, and we're really going to focus on adversity. Of course, we're going to touch on the cannabis and the opioid. It was those three issues, and we're trying to bring attention, bring them both, all three in the front. But I think it's more about, overcoming adversity. And again, I'm no Superman. There's nothing, special, any special, more special to me about me than anybody else. I just chose that's what I wanted. I set out these goals, and that's the thing. You set out these goals. Now, not all those goals will you reach, but as long as you're moving forward, it may change, but you break off. But as long as you're moving up, I say use adversity as a springboard, not to hold you back, but to take you further and higher and farther than any time before.
Absolutely. And let cannabis be your co-pilot.
That's right.
Well, Denny, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Everyone, you can reach Denny at dennychipollini.com, and that's CHIPOLLINI.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, let's check these notes, see if we have any questions specifically for you. It looks like we've got some folks talking about strains, and they're taking care of each other over there. I dig that. Let's see. I'm recovering from a messed up I4, I5, just not able to function like I used to. What do you say to people when you're, training people that are, kind of rehabbing back in that beginning phase where change is uncomfortable? It hurts. Like, how do you motivate people in that space to just be able to push past that?
Well, that's another advantage of having one leg. I have, I've had clients that'll, give me, oh, this is hard, this and that. And I'll literally take the leg off and fling it in front of them. And I'll say to them, you think this was easy? And they're like, I know it's kind of brutal,
yeah,
but guess what? It works because they can't, and they'll give me a couple more reps out of it.
Yeah.
But I take it slow. It depends. I've been doing it so long. I rehabbed myself. I didn't go to rehab. I did it myself. Whether I did the right things or not, I don't know. But I am doing pretty good right now. I mean, in the past 2 days, I did 14 miles, and I feel great.
That's impressive. When you said that about taking off your leg and flinging it at someone, I was in a bar one night, and a guy came up and he told my friend that was across the table from me that he'd give his right leg to go out on a date with her. And then he took his leg and he put it on the table.
I love that. That's great. That is great. Did she go out with him?
I don't know if she did or not. I don't know, but that was quality stuff. I'm like, that's somebody who is confident.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I cried, I had those years, back when this happened, but it's like, yeah, you got to deal with it. One of the best compliments I've ever received, and I was at work, a guy came up to me and he says, I got to tell you something. I don't see you as an amputee. I don't see it. You do, the way you move, I don't see that missing leg. And that made me feel good. And a guy the other day, I was in a store and he came up to me. I didn't know him. And he said, wow, I couldn't tell. If you had long pants on, I could not tell. So, and the important thing of that is I realized, when I go out and do my miles, if I'm stressed out and all uptight, I have a horrible time out there. It hurts. When you relax, and I have my cannabis before I go, all of a sudden that prosthetic becomes one with me, and there's no pain. I just go, and it's just amazing. That whole feeling.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah, you get out there and you find your flow. I appreciate that.
And we all can do this. We don't need a tragedy to happen to us. There's people out there that are that went through that. And it's like I say, to my kids, I'm like, I'm not telling you how to live your life, but here's some things I did. Sometimes you have to go through those things. That's what makes us learn.
Yeah, and
But
contrast is such a wonderful teacher. It
yes,
shows us very clearly what we don't want and makes us get much clearer on what we do want.
correct. Yes, I agree.
So
Absolutely.
on April 15th, I'm going to be doing a free webinar here on the Casually Baked YouTube channel that is the highly inspired lifestyle tools that I use, because I didn't have a tragedy like you to kick me into this space of being a high gear active doer. And, I want to be able to show people just some of the little daily things that I do that can, add some ease and flow to your day. And so we'll be doing that on April 15th. And Denny, your story has inspired me, and I'm constantly amazed at my own stretchability. And seeing you, I'm just like, the sky's the limit. We can really, really do anything.
We really can. We really can. Joe, thank you again for
Yes.
having me.
And thank you everyone for joining us for this live stream version of the podcast.